All right, today we are diving headfirst into a massive showdown between some of the most talked about launch monitors out there. We've got the brand new Garmin Approach R50 going up against its biggest rivals, the Foresight Sports GC3 and the Bushnell Launch Pro. Look, choosing between these high-end devices is tough, so we're going to break it all down to help you figure out which one is the absolute best for you in your game.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? By the time we're done here, you are going to have a crystal clear picture. We're going to dig into the features, the accuracy, the real cost of owning one of these things, and what it's actually like to use them day in and day out.
So let's get to know our contenders. At first glance, they might all look pretty similar, but trust me, the way they're designed and how they're priced, completely different worlds. And what's really fascinating is that two of them, the Foresight GC3 and the Bushnell Launch Pro, are basically the same exact hardware under the hood, just sold in different packages.
So each of these is really aimed at a slightly different golfer. You've got the Garmin R50, which is trying to be this true all-in-one simulator, perfect if you just want a simple standalone setup. Then there's the Foresight GC3, which is all about portable accuracy, making it awesome for both the driving range and your indoor sim. And the Bushnell Launch Pro? Well, it takes that same great technology but ditches the screen, making it a dedicated unit just for indoor simulation.
Okay, let's get to the main event, features versus accuracy. This is really where the new kid on the block, Garmin, starts to shake things up against the established kings of data. It's all about what you're actually getting for your money versus how well the thing actually works.
So the big deal with the Garmin R50 is this all-in-one idea. What does that actually mean? It means you can play full, simulated rounds of golf right on the device itself. You don't have to connect it to a laptop or a phone or a projector to get going. If you're someone who just wants a clean, simple setup, that is a massive game changer.
Now let's talk about the data, because this is where a huge difference pops up. Both units track all the key club metrics you'd expect. But look at this. The Garmin R50 gives you face angle. The Foresight and Bushnell just don't. And that is a huge omission. You can have club path data all day, but without knowing your face angle, it's like trying to solve a puzzle with a key piece missing. It makes it so much harder to figure out what's really going on with your swing.
So what about accuracy? I mean, that's Foresight's whole reputation, right? Well, this is where things get really interesting. After a ton of testing, it turns out the Garmin R50 is right there, neck and neck, with the Foresight and Bushnell units. The conclusion is that accuracy should absolutely not be the deciding factor here. The R50 is just that good.
All right, now for what might be the most important part for a lot of us, the price. And let me just tell you right now, the price you see on the box does not tell the whole story, not by a long shot. First up, you've got the Bushnell Launch Pro. The hardware itself is going to set you back about $2,800. On the surface, that looks great, right? It's the cheapest way to get into this top tier of camera-based launch monitors, a very tempting number. Then you have its sibling, the Foresight GC3, which comes in at around $3,800. So what's that extra $1,000 get you? Well, it gets you that built-in screen for data and the ability to use it outdoors. It's a pretty big jump in price just for that convenience.
And finally, we've got the Garmin Approach R50. The initial cost for the hardware? $5,000. So just looking at these three numbers, the conclusion seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? The R50 is way more expensive.
But is it really? See, this is where we have to look past that day one sticker shock and think about the total cost of owning one of these things. And trust me, the answer is going to surprise you.
And here it is, the big reveal. See, the Bushnell and Foresight units make you pay a subscription, about $500 a year, to unlock all their simulation features. And when you factor that in, the whole story changes. Take a look at this chart. After just 3 years, the Foresight GC3 actually becomes the most expensive of the three. And suddenly, that $5,000 Garmin R50 starts looking like a way smarter long-term investment.
So let's put the money aside for a second. What are these devices actually like to live with? We got to talk about the practical stuff. Setting it up, how much space you need, and the software that runs the whole show.
When it comes to setup, the Garmin R50 is the clear winner if you just want things to be simple. You literally turn it on and you can be hitting balls in like 40 seconds. The Foresight and Bushnell are quick too, but they have that extra step where you have to connect to a computer, which, can be a little bit of a hassle for some people. Now let's talk about the hitting zone. This is one area where the Foresight and Bushnell definitely have an advantage. They give you a nice, big, forgiving area to place your ball. With the R50, the hitting area is about the same size if you're only tracking the ball, but it shrinks down quite a bit when you want to capture that club data. It just means you have to be a little more precise about where you set up.
And now, software value. Oh man, this isn't even a fair fight. Foresight and Bushnell are charging you $500 a year for access to maybe 30 courses. Garmin software? It's just $100 a year, and it gives you access to over 38,000 courses. You can literally play your own local muni. The value difference here is it's astronomical.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground here. Features, accuracy, cost, what it's like to use. It is time to pull it all together, weigh the pros and cons, and help you land on a final decision.
But before we do that, there's one really important issue that actually affects all three of these launch monitors. It's the lefty/righty problem. Because they all sit next to the ball, every single time a left-handed player wants to hit after a right-handed player, you have to physically pick up and move the entire unit. It is a huge pain, and it's something you really need to think about if you're going to have mixed groups playing.
So here it is, the final breakdown. The pros for the Garmin R50 are massive. It's all-in-one, no mandatory fees, way more features, and ridiculously cheaper software. The cons? That smaller club data zone, and right now, the putting isn't great. For Foresight and Bushnell, you get that elite accuracy and a bigger hitting zone, but you're paying those high fees every single year, and you're missing that critical face angle data.
So what's the bottom line here? When you really think about the ongoing subscription costs for the competition, and you look at the mountain of features the R50 just gives you right out of the box, the verdict is pretty clear. Even with its higher upfront price, the Garmin R50 is the recommended buy because its long-term value is just so much better. But look, at the end of the day, the choice really boils down to your own personal priorities. Are you willing to pay those yearly fees to get that elite, though slightly limited, data and a bigger hitting area? Or do you prefer a one-and-done purchase that unlocks a whole universe of features and tens of thousands of courses? Features or fees? What's going to be your deciding factor?